Welcome back in the world of books made of paper. I really do have anything against e-books. And you're not supposed to have anything against modern media. It's the development of human beings, of course. And if we don't keep developing, then of course we remain the way we are. So the history of the book started with small writing, but it started with but today, of course, we also have to accept the digital writing. I'm not a prophet, and but I can say that everything that we have today as paperback books has actually been a possibility of making hardback books more affordable and to make them accessible, to make them more readable. And these books will, at one moment in time, maybe in 30, 40, 50 years, they will be gone, they will vanish. There will probably just be two sorts of books left: the hardcover copies and e-books. The paperbacks of today will probably be the e-books of tomorrow. Just shortly on that. It's just an opinion, like I said, I'm not a prophet, but we'll see what the development brings, what development will show. Why am I here? Probably because I'm called Hamouda. I come from Tunisia. I actually lived on an island, but I didn't swim here. I had a transit over Moscow, where I studied, and that's how I came to Leipzig. And I have 2 children there. We have been there for 25 years with my family. I'm 51 years of age. About half of my life I've been living here as the only foreigner with 3 Germans at home, my wife and my 2 children. I have 15 years of experience in tourism marketing, tourism management. I have been 5 years director of a municipal organization, and when my oldest daughter got to school for the first time, I promised her I will be back in Leipzig. I looked for work there. I wrote about 200 applications, and I wasn't even invited a single time for getting an interview. Maybe I was too stupid. I had a lot of answers in writing. I was overqualified. Okay, what can I do? Reading, writing, yes, I studied. It was kind of my trademark, something that I could sell. I want to do something in Leipzig. Okay, I get self-employed. I create a publishing house because I can read and write. That's what I did. Although I also was looking for something that matches me. I come from Tunisia. I was born in a Muslim community. And religion still plays a positive role there in that society. But with my books, to make them suitable also to you, I also need books that give a bit of you in my publishing house, something of what we call today migration. I can't, of course, cover that up. I have a migratory background. Even the people that have known me for 25 years, my friends, they sometimes ask me, although they know that I haven't represented my country for 25 years because I handed in my passport. They keep asking me, I kept wondering, well, I have to publish books that really suit myself. I have other people write. I write myself as well, but I'm a bit lazy in that, so I have other people write. And my task is to see books as bridges between two cultures. And I found a new definition of the notion of cultural dialogue for myself. It's not only about building bridges between different cultures. In my perception, it's also the bridge between different poles inside of a cultural community. What does that mean? That means, for example, I've been living in Thuringia, in Arnstadt, for 5 years. I've been working there, and it was part of my work there to deal with tourists, to inform them there. And I asked my colleague there, are there maybe writers in Arnstadt that I could include in my marketing, in my publishing? And she said, no, well, we don't. Oh yeah, wait, there was one writer, she was writing trivia, she's called Eugenia Malet. You don't need to know about her, she died. And I thought, okay. That didn't tell me anything. Although I did literary studies, I had never heard of her. So what did I do? I went to a bookstore. They didn't have anything of her. I went to Erfurt. I looked for her there. I bought 3 books. I read them in just 1 week, and then I said, I'm gonna be marketing her. That's what I did. And when I created my publishing house, I said I will keep selling her all over the country, not only in Arnstadt. What did she do? She was writing in a newspaper, in a weekly newspaper that was published back then in Leipzig. Until the Second World War, she was writing novels for girls. Why for girls? There was no gender discussion back then, of course, but the problem, the issue, that in the 19th century we had the Industrial Revolution, and cities were of course growing fastly, and they needed workers, not only in the factories but also at home, to take care of the children. And there were many girls that from the villages moved to the towns, and they were able to read and write. Of course, there was no TV, there was no computer, no nothing. So what did they do? They read. And with that, they created a genre in newspapers, or in magazines, which were family magazines. One is called Gartenlaube, that was for the first time published in 1853 in Leipzig. It had about 8 pages, about industrial size A4, and in this magazine there were continued novels in there. And she wrote 9 novels for narrations, a lot of poems. And selling this Gartenlaube was a weekly magazine, like I said. They started in 53 with 5,000, and they were used as a free supplement to a newspaper until they became an independent magazine. And then in 1878, when the publisher died, they had 400,000 copies every Thursday. We're not talking about today. We're not talking about the PDF formats that we have for publishing. No, there was nothing like that. Because they had this edition because they were read. There were young women, young girls that were reading this. And this was why it was important, of course, to have that. So I thought if an author like that had such an important role in that time, why is she been forgotten about today? So this notion has been, or this is why I enhanced this notion onto building bridges inside one cultural community. I have a good friend here. He's Professor Dr. Gerd Schubner, and he has worked in Leipzig for a couple of years. And back then he was a student fellow of my wife. I talked to him, I said, I want to create a publishing house. What do you think? What kind of manuscripts do you have? And he said, well, I could, maybe contribute a couple of things. Let's see, we'll do something. And he gave me a book that is called Sprache ist Extremismus. my other friends told me, no, leave that. That's not going to be a success. You're a foreigner, just leave it. And I said, well, you know what? Just because I am a foreigner, I dare to make books. I dare to publish things that the publishers here in Germany didn't want to do. So there are many publishers nowadays that are doing pretty much the same thing. I have this book now in a second edition. It's been my biggest edition so far. So these are examples of books that I publish. I cannot work. I'll try and come with a couple of more hands next time. I only have 2 hands, I'm sorry. I'll try and manage. If you take a look at this, I put that onto your tables. You find a collection of about 70 books in there. I created my publishing house about 9 years ago. And in 9 years I had published 112 books. If you're publishing digitally, of course, then you need less resources. We need resources also for translation, for example. Large translations cost about 3,000 to 4,000 euros, which is quite expensive, but good books have to be made in a good way, of course. And I said, well, if I have a publishing house, this is a life decision for me. I do not want my children necessarily to carry on with this publishing house. I've not been a dictator. I don't want to be that. I do that just for my own. I do that because I say, well, it was something good that I did, and if they want to keep doing that in the future, I will be happy about it, but they don't have to. I wanted to create a publishing house that is just simply publishing houses about a certain subject, something that is boring. So I thought, I'm going to publish books from children's book to textbooks. And I am happy that my textbook that has been published in my publishing house is used in 14 universities, from Hamburg to Zurich. It's used by Professor Eckhard Schulz, a textbook on the Arabian language, and I checked that there are really, if there are really so many students using in these 3 countries, and it is so. Children's books are, for me, not only, I think that are not only written by migrants. If I take a look at the 112 books that I have, maybe 2 of them were written by migrants. The children's books are not necessarily about migration. I tried to perceive everything that we said yesterday about literature without fixed abode, about migration, about guest workers, and so on. But we didn't really talk about German literature. That maybe is also, that was written by Bühlers, for example, or others. My books, I choose them myself. And I have the privilege that the books that I want to publish, that I want to realize, I can choose them myself. And I order a lot of things. I have other people write. I have a good friend on the border to Holland, to the Netherlands. And when I tell him I want a novel, a romance novel about the Islam, when I tell him that, sit down, write it. Or I need something for children's literature. I can't find anything interesting about Hannibal. We know a lot about the story, of course, but I would like to publish something interesting about him. So we agree, the writer and I, about his about the money he gets, about the royalties, and then he writes that. So this is how it works.
Also, used books. I try to find topics that fit my person. Well, 5 years ago, because it was on TV, I wanted to do something about the children's crusade, so to speak. About the crusades, we need a children's book about the crusades. And I approached someone and he actually wrote a book for children about it. And today we try to set this up and also offer that in the other parts of Germany. About novels, yes, I do have migrants on migrant literature, 2 of the books. One is a person from Tunisia. He doesn't speak German, but he's a journalist living in Stuttgart and is writing in Arabic. And his book, which I really liked, I was translated in 3 months. The translator actually, took a holiday to translate the book. It's about migrants who travelled across Africa to reach Germany. And this is the novel about it. Then I have a second migrant who's very fascinating, a professor for Islamic studies. I think he's living in Bamberg, and he writes a novel. Well, he's written 3 so far. Arabic novels, and it's in the Surkamp publishing house. But also some bibliographic things. I don't like bibliographic things. I rather like novels. So he's got 2 with my publishing house. It's a migrant living also in the UK and Germany, and he goes back to Iran and is trying to find his roots and the truth. And this is a problem I know if you come back to your world, actually, but foreign to you a little bit. And there's a selection of books that I offer here. I cannot talk about everything. But here you've got a selection, and there are about 70 of the 112 in there in this leaflet. I have 30 minutes over. I don't have a watch, I only have a smartphone, but no watch. To make sure I know where I am. Well, this is what I wanted to tell you. But there's one comment that I actually wanted to say yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't make the comment yesterday. It's about this term, writing between different worlds, this phrase. I have to apologize, but it is a very narrow perspective. It is our German perspective, if we look outside, and what affects us. There's another perspective. Those relate to writing between different words. But let us leave Germany. Just imagine we live in Tunisia. Well, 1960, you were born in an island. Well, it doesn't exist. For example, there is no authority to register a birth. Then, at some time, the boy goes to school. He learns Arabic, French, English, and at the age of 12 or 13, he can read literature in the original. Yeah, you can imagine what happens in his brain. He's not only the Arab boy, 100%. Now, of course, he is born there and he has Arab dialect. But the first letters are all written in Arabic. Was puberty? Yeah, yes, of course, okay. But what does he want to do? Well, he is not 100% Arabic there. He is enlightened, so to speak. Please support it. The French came to Tunisia and brought with them enlightenment. Well, they also enslaved us. Yeah, the boy says, no, I'm proud to be the person I am, but also proud of what is in my brain. Well, he doesn't write it like in Arabic from right to left, but from left to right. And this is living or writing between different worlds, the two different worlds. You can imagine how you can actually live between different worlds. I have not written books in Tunisia. Well, I published a few articles, yes, but no books. If I've got 2 or 3 minutes, I talk about an author who wrote very good books in this sense in Tunisia. He did his PhD at the Sorbonne in France. He was a minister, he was in the trade union. Mahmoud Misadi. And I hope that you know him. So what did he write, Mahmoud Misadi? In just 9 months, of 40 weeks of pregnancy, he wrote his, and from the Arabic, you see that over there. And he actually had 4 books, and they are available in Arabic and in German. I had them translated, those 4 books. Oh, of course, there were French subsidies, but it was not translated into French. But what did he do as a writer? He was also a minister. He was, at his time, or during his time, I learned French at school. He gave us the opportunity to go to school for free. And therefore I'm very grateful to him that he did that. Mahmoud Misadi wrote 4 books. Were trusted in that case, and they're all based on Islam, the Islam-Arabic tradition of the narrative of accounting. It's not like Rafiq Jami, no. He said, well, the Arab people, they like to talk, they like to tell things. And I use and take this opportunity to take elements from the European culture. For example, existentialism was told in the Arab way. For example, it was said that he founded an Islamic existentialism, and it's nonsense. But what does he do? He saw that what he writes will not be actually read in his home country because they have problems with the foreign literature. And they are afraid, and in Tunisia too, not only in Germany or France, there's the same everywhere, that the books are not read only after 20 years, or 20 years after his generation was raised. Then they were given the opportunity to study for free. Again, they discovered him again in the 70s only. It was that was taught at schools and university. Today, every Arabic person from Morocco who has not heard about Mahmoud Misadi, who doesn't read any books at all, so they've all heard of him in the Arabic world. And until 5 years ago, that person was unknown in Germany. So the books are available in German now. You can read them. They're established by a professor in Tunis, also translated by a professor in Tunis. I worked with a Tunisian translator, not because he's Tunisian, but the book is difficult to translate. No German could have done that. Well, maybe a German translator could have done it, but it would have taken him 40 years. Therefore, they're published now, and it's an example to me of writing between different worlds. Again, he did his PhD at the Sorbonne, wrote in Arabic, and is a wonderful writer. So it was an honor to me to publish his books. I think that was even more than 3 minutes. So thank you very much for listening. And I wish you all the best.